Hello, dreamers. I am your storyteller tonight. Like and subscribe for more bedtime stories, and share in the comments where you are listening from. I moved into the building because it was cheap. That's it. No grand story, no tragic backstory. I just needed a place close to work, and 208A was available. It was one of those aging apartment complexes on the edge of town. Faded carpets, flickering hallway lights, the faint smell of cigarettes that never quite left the walls. The place had character, I guess. And a neighbor. The guy next door, 208B, introduced himself my first night. He was around my age, maybe mid-30s, clean-cut, polite. A little too polite. His name was Evan. He smiled the whole time we talked. Not a warm, friendly smile, but the kind that looked fixed, like it took effort to hold in place. "Walls are thin," he said, still smiling. "I'll try not to bother you." I laughed and said the same thing. He nodded slowly like he was memorizing it. That was it. A short, awkward encounter. But I remember something strange before he closed his door. He said, "You'll think about me a lot." I thought he was joking, so I laughed. But his smile didn't change. He just stepped inside and shut the door quietly. The first time it really got to me was about a week later. I was lying in bed, scrolling through my phone, thinking about calling my ex, something I'd promised myself I wouldn't do. I hadn't told anyone about it. Not my friends, not my co-workers. It was just a thought. Then I heard it. A soft tapping sound from the wall next to my bed. 3 slow knocks. At first I ignored it. Then faintly, I heard Evan's voice through the wall. "Don't call her." My phone almost slipped out of my hand. I sat up. "What?" I whispered. "Don't call her," he repeated. "You'll regret it." I froze. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. I got up, pressed my ear against the wall. Nothing. I laughed nervously, told myself I imagined it. Maybe the TV next door, maybe the pipes. But still, I didn't make the call. Over the next few days, little things started happening. I'd think about ordering takeout, and a moment later I'd hear a muffled laugh through the wall. I'd mutter something under my breath, and Evan would finish my sentence from the other side. Once, when I thought I should really stop staying up so late, I heard him say, almost kindly, "You should. It's not good for you." The next morning, I went to his door to confront him. He opened it before I even knocked. "Morning," he said cheerfully. "Sleep any better?" I froze. I hadn't said anything yet. "How did you were going to ask how I knew," he said. "You always start questions that way." I stood there staring at him. His smile didn't fade. "We're more alike than you think," he said softly. "Sometimes I hear you too." Then he shut the door. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept the lights on, trying to convince myself it was coincidence, a strange, creepy coincidence. But the truth was, I could feel it. Something between us had shifted. It was like there was no wall anymore. Every time I tried to think of something, anything, my mind felt crowded, like someone else was inside it waiting. When I closed my eyes, I could almost see him, sitting in his dark apartment, head tilted toward the wall, smiling. Just listening. I stopped inviting people over. It wasn't that I was embarrassed by the apartment, it was that every time someone visited, Evan seemed to know. Once my co-worker Mark dropped by after a late shift. We'd barely sat down before there was a single heavy knock from the wall. Mark frowned. "You got a ghost neighbor?" I forced a laugh. "Night owl, I guess." But the knock came again, louder, followed by Evan's calm voice, muffled but clear. "He's thinking about leaving soon." Mark blinked. "Did he just—" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You shouldn't tell him." I looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. Mark left 5 minutes later, muttering something about weird vibes. That night I unplugged my router, powered off my phone, everything. If he was hacking, he'd have no signal. I even put on headphones to block out noise. Still, his voice slipped through, soft, deliberate, like it came from inside my head instead of the wall. Blocking signals won't help, I'm closer than that. I tore the headphones off and whispered, Leave me alone. You don't mean that. The words weren't spoken aloud. They arrived in my mind, heavy and certain, like remembering something I hadn't yet thought. By morning, I hadn't slept. My reflection looked like a stranger's. At work, I kept glancing at the door, half expecting him to walk in. My coworkers asked if I was sick. I'm fine, I lied. When I came home that evening, a note was taped to my door. Neat handwriting, same paper as before. You don't look fine. No signature. I forced myself next door and banged on Evan's door until my fists hurt. He opened instantly, as if he'd been waiting. Inside, the apartment was almost empty. Bare walls, no furniture except a single chair facing mine through the shared wall. Why are you doing this? I demanded. He tilted his head, that fixed smile barely moving. Doing what? You're the one talking through the wall. What? You think so loudly I can't sleep. I wanted to argue, but the longer I looked into his eyes, the more my thoughts started looping, repeating my own words. It felt like being mirrored. Every flicker of doubt bounced right back at me. I stumbled backward into the hall. Stay away from me. I can't, he said gently. You invited me in the first night you thought about me. He closed the door. That night I heard him humming. Soft, tuneless, right behind the wall. When I tried to hum louder to drown him out, the melody changed with mine, matching every note a fraction late. I stopped. So did he. Silence. Then, a whisper inside my skull. See? Perfect harmony. I pressed my hands to my ears and screamed until my throat went raw. When I finally stopped, the voice said almost kindly, Don't hurt yourself. I can feel that too. The next morning, I called the property manager. I told her I needed to break my lease. She sounded hesitant. Is this about the neighbor issue again? Yes. Evan in 208B. He's harassing me. Long pause. Sir, there is no 208B. The unit next to you doesn't exist. Your apartment runs the whole width of that floor. The wall's just structural. I laughed. Couldn't help it. It sounded like a dry choke. I hung up without another word. When I turned toward the wall, I realized the humming had stopped. Instead, faint scratching traced words into the plaster from the other side, slow and deliberate. Stop thinking, it hurts. I didn't go to work the next day. I couldn't. Every time I tried to form a thought, about leaving, about calling someone, it echoed back, doubled, distorted, like my own mind had become a room with two people speaking inside it. I sat on the floor and stared at the wall. The spot where the scratching had appeared was smooth now, freshly painted, as if it had never happened. But I could still feel the words there. Stop thinking. It hurts. I tried to picture something simple, an empty field, sunlight, silence. But a second later, another image slid over mine. Evan sitting in his chair, smiling at the wall. I could see him through my own eyes and his, the two views overlapping until I didn't know which one belonged to me. At dusk, I packed a bag, keys, wallet, car title. I kept repeating a plan in my head. Leave, drive, don't look back. But before I could stand, a voice, not from the wall, not from the air, but inside, whispered, If you leave, who'll stay to keep me real? The lights flickered. I backed away until my shoulders hit the front door. Get out of my head, I shouted. For a moment there was real silence, deep and heavy. Then came a calm reply. You invited me every time you wondered what I was thinking. The phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but the ringing grew louder inside my skull, a shrill pulse that wouldn't stop until I picked up. Hello? We should talk face to face, the voice said. It's easier if we stop pretending there's a wall. I threw the phone onto the couch. It kept humming, a vibration that crawled across the cushions like something alive. Then, quietly, the door to 208B clicked open. There shouldn't have been a door. The hallway ended at my wall, but now there was a doorway filled with darkness and a faint smell of dust and paint. I should have run. Instead, I stepped forward, drawn by a strange calm, like walking toward my own reflection. The room beyond was identical to mine. Same carpet, same stains, same half-open blinds. Except for one thing, a single chair facing the shared wall, and in it, me, or someone wearing my face. He looked up, smiling faintly. I told you we were alike. My voice, my tone, everything perfect except the eyes. Flat, glassy, unreadable. I whispered, "What are you?" He tilted his head. "The part that listens when you think." I backed away. He stood. Every motion mirrored mine, a fraction late, like a reflection lagging behind the reel. "You created me when you moved in," he said. "You filled an empty room with thoughts too loud to ignore." The air buzzed. I felt my own heartbeat in my skull. "Stop," I said. "I can't," he answered. "Not until one of us is quiet." He stepped closer. I did too. Our movements merged until I couldn't tell who was reaching for whom. Then, darkness. I woke on the floor hours later, or maybe days. The apartment was silent. The clock on the stove blinked 12-ing. I checked the hallway. No door, no 28B. Just smooth drywall where the frame had been. For a moment I thought I'd imagined it all. Then I saw the chair, dragged from nowhere, sitting against the wall, facing mine, and from the other side came a faint whisper, perfectly timed with my heartbeat. "Your turn to listen." Now it's quiet most nights. I try not to think too loudly. Sometimes I catch myself smiling for no reason, and I realize he's doing it too, somewhere behind the wall that isn't there. I don't know which of us moved out, or which of us stayed behind. I don't really know when it started. Maybe last December, maybe before that. All I know is the night stopped feeling safe. I've had insomnia for years. Long nights, heavy silence, the hum of my refrigerator sounding like a living thing. I live alone in a small apartment in Portland, Oregon, 3rd floor facing a parking lot that's always half empty. I work remote, so sometimes I don't leave the place for days. It began with sleep paralysis. I'd wake up unable to move, chest locked tight, eyes wide open. I'd see things in the dark, shadows stretching, a figure by the closet, shapes that disappeared when I blinked. Everyone says it's your mind tricking you. I believed that at first. But then it started happening even when I wasn't asleep. One night, around 3 a.m., I was lying on my back, fully awake, scrolling through my phone. I heard breathing, slow, deep breathing, coming from right beside my bed. I froze, staring at the wall, phone light flickering across my hand. It stopped as soon as I sat up. I told myself it was the pipes, the wind, anything. But I didn't sleep that night. Over the next week, it got worse. I'd wake up with my blankets on the floor, my chair moved across the room, my nightstand drawer open. I don't drink. I don't take meds. I'm not one of those people who sleepwalks. Still, I figured maybe stress was doing it. So I did what any logical person would do. I bought a camera. Just a basic night vision webcam off Amazon, the kind streamers use. I mounted it on a tripod at the end of my bed, facing me. I told myself it was for proof, to show my therapist it was all in my head. The first night I slept surprisingly well. No paralysis, no noises. I actually woke up thinking the problem had passed. But when I checked the footage, I noticed something weird. Around 2:54 a.m., I shifted suddenly, sitting up straight. My eyes were open. I leaned forward, staring right into the camera for about 5 seconds, then slowly laid back down. No expression, no hesitation, just blank mechanical movement. I don't remember doing that. I know I didn't do that. The footage left a cold pit in my stomach, but I kept telling myself, maybe I was half asleep. Maybe it's just sleepwalking. That night, though, something else happened. At around 3:15 a.m., I woke up gasping. My entire room felt wrong, heavy, the air thick like it was pressing against my skin. I looked at the camera. The red light was on, recording. Then I noticed the clock. 3:17 a.m., the same time I had sat up the night before. I didn't sleep again after that. In the morning, I tried to tell myself it was coincidence, just random timing. But deep down I felt something building, like whatever was happening wasn't just sleep paralysis anymore. That night I checked the locks 3 times. I left the bathroom light on because I couldn't handle the full dark. The glow from under the door felt like a small comfort. But when I woke up around 3 a.m., I saw something new on the camera's tiny display. It was me, sitting up again. Only this time my eyes weren't just open, I was smiling. When I saw that smile on the tiny camera display, I froze. I didn't even breathe for a few seconds. It wasn't the kind of smile people make when they're dreaming. It looked deliberate, focused, almost aware. I wanted to shut off the camera immediately, but my curiosity overpowered me. I needed to know what else happened that night. Maybe I was misunderstanding what I saw. Maybe there was a logical explanation. I transferred the footage to my laptop, sat down at my kitchen table and hit play. For the first couple of hours, it was normal. I rolled over a few times, scratched my face, muttered something half asleep. Then the timestamp hit 3:17 a.m. again. That's when my body sat up. The camera caught everything in grainy night vision, my skin pale, my eyes reflecting light like an animal's. I just sat there, still, facing forward for about a minute. Then, slowly, I turned toward the camera and smiled. The longer I stared at it, the colder I felt, because as the smile spread across my face, I could see my lips move. I whispered something. The audio was faint, full of static, but I turned the volume all the way up, and I heard myself say, "Stop watching." It was my voice, but lower, calmer, like a version of me that wasn't supposed to exist. I shut the laptop so fast it nearly snapped. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. For the rest of that day, I kept telling myself it was sleep talking, some subconscious thing. But I couldn't shake that voice. It didn't sound half asleep, it sounded awake. That night, I tried sleeping without the camera, but I couldn't. I kept thinking about what else might be happening that I wasn't seeing. So, around midnight, I gave in and turned it back on. The next morning, I didn't even want to check it. I went to work groggy, my mind buzzing. I came home, sat on the couch, stared at the dark hallway leading to my bedroom. The camera was still in there, still recording. I told myself, "You'll feel better once you know." So I opened the footage. This time at 3:14 a.m., something strange happened. The camera flickered just for a second. When the picture came back, I was gone. The bed was empty, the sheets were rumpled, but I wasn't there. For almost 3 minutes, the frame just showed my empty bed. Then from the edge of the frame, I walked in. Except, it wasn't me. Not the version of me I recognized. The man in the video was wearing my clothes, but his face, my face, looked different. Pale, hollow-eyed. He stepped up to the camera and leaned in close, just like before. The smile came back. But this time, he said something else. "He's still awake." Then the footage cut to static. I stared at the frozen gray screen, every muscle in my body tensed. I couldn't breathe. I didn't remember any of that. I didn't remember leaving my bed. And there was no sign of anyone else in my apartment. I tried to sleep on the couch that night, lights on, blinds closed. But sometime after 3 a.m., I woke up again, the same heavy feeling pressing on my chest. My phone buzzed. I looked at it and my heart nearly stopped. It was a notification from the camera app. Motion detected, 3:17 a.m. My phone slipped out of my hand. I didn't open the clip. I couldn't. I sat there, shaking, staring at that timestamp glowing on my screen. It was always the same time. Every single night. By morning, I made a decision. I unplugged the camera, packed it into its box, and shoved it into my closet. Whatever was happening, I didn't want proof anymore. I just wanted it to stop. For 2 nights, things were quiet. I started to think maybe that was the answer. No camera, no evidence, no problem. But on the 3rd night, I woke up to a small red light blinking across the room. The camera was sitting on my dresser, plugged in, turned on, facing my bed. I hadn't touched it, and the cord, it was stretched across the floor in a way that would have woken me if someone had moved it. That was the moment I realized. Maybe the thing on the footage wasn't something else pretending to be me. Maybe it was me. Some part I couldn't control anymore. After that night, I couldn't think straight. I didn't tell anyone. Not my therapist, not my brother, not the one friend I still text occasionally. Who would believe me? I barely believed myself. I stopped sleeping in my bedroom. I started crashing on the couch, leaving the TV on for background noise. The light made me feel less alone. Still, every time 3 a.m. rolled around, I'd catch myself staring down the hallway, half expecting to see that red light again. A week went by. No camera movement. No sleepwalking. I started to relax. I told myself maybe I'd had some sort of breakdown, and my mind had finally reset. Then one night, while scrolling through old emails, I saw something strange in my sent folder. A message from me, sent at 3:19 a.m. 2 nights earlier. No subject, no text, just a video attachment. I clicked it before I could stop myself. It was the camera footage. The image was grainy, showing my empty bed, the glow from the bathroom spilling faint light across the room. About a minute in, I appeared from the hallway, barefoot, eyes half open, the same as before. I walked toward the camera and crouched down, my face filling the frame. I whispered, "He's not asleep anymore." Then, the camera moved. It tilted, as if someone else behind it adjusted the angle. But the problem was, I was alone. The version of me in the video reached out, touched the lens gently, then pointed to something behind the camera. For a second, the night vision caught a shape, just a sliver, like a shoulder or an arm. Another person standing in the dark behind the tripod. But no one else lives here. No one has a key. I paused the video, breathing hard, staring at that frame. The static distorted the image, but I could swear the figure's face looked like mine. Not identical, older, more tired, like a version of me that had been awake too long. I closed the laptop and backed away. That's when I heard it, a faint mechanical click from down the hall. I didn't want to look. I swear every instinct in me screamed to just leave. But I did look. The door to my bedroom was slightly open, even though I'd locked it earlier. And through the gap, I saw the soft blink of a red light. I froze there, hand on the wall, heart pounding so loud it hurt. The air felt heavy again, like it did that first week. That pressure that made it hard to breathe. Then I heard something. Footsteps. Slow, uneven, dragging against the carpet, coming closer to the door. I stepped back, but the light in the bedroom went out. The hallway fell into blackness. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears, then a whisper, close enough that it might have been inside my head. "Stop watching." The door creaked wider, but no one came out. I ran. I didn't even grab my phone or wallet. I just ran down the stairs and out of the building barefoot. I sat in my car until sunrise, engine off, shaking. When I finally went back up, the apartment door was still locked from the inside. Inside, the camera was gone. Every file on my laptop, deleted. The folder, the backups, the email, all gone. Even the trash bin was empty, like none of it ever existed. I didn't tell the police. What would I say? That I recorded myself sleepwalking and found something impossible? That I saw a version of myself in my own apartment? Now it's been 3 weeks. I don't use cameras anymore. I barely sleep. I keep catching my reflection looking the wrong way in mirrors, like it's a half-second off from my real movements. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I hear that voice again, mine but not mine, whispering, calm, familiar. He's still awake. And every morning when I wake up, my chair is facing the bed again, and the outlet under the dresser, where I used to plug in the camera, has a small red glow, like something's charging there, waiting for me to start watching again. I am 20 years old, guy, and I've always been a night owl. When you work late shifts and live alone, 2 a.m. doesn't feel spooky. It just feels quiet. My apartment sits on the second floor of a brick building outside Columbus, Ohio. The kind of place where you can hear every neighbor's microwave beep and shower pipe rattle. On a Thursday night in early April, My phone rang. No ringtone, just the default buzz. I looked at the screen and froze. The caller ID said my own number. At first, I laughed. Probably a spoofed scam call. Happens all the time, right? Still, something about seeing my number glowing on that dark screen made my stomach twist. I almost let it go to voicemail. But curiosity won. I answered. "Hello?" I said. For a second, nothing. Then a breath. Long, shaky, familiar. And then a voice. My voice. "Don't leave your apartment." I thought it was a recording, maybe some prank app. But the voice kept talking. It sounded exactly like me, down to the slight rasp I get when I'm tired. "If you open the door, it'll already be inside." I hung up. My hands were sweating. I stared at my phone, half expecting another ring. Nothing. Just silence. I checked the call log. It really showed my number as both caller and receiver. No duration, no origin. I tried calling myself back, but it went straight to voicemail. That night I barely slept. Every creak in the hallway sounded like footsteps stopping outside my door. The next morning, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe someone cloned my SIM, maybe it was a fluke. I even went to my carrier store, but the guy behind the counter just shrugged. "Probably a spoof. Happens more than you'd think." He reset my line, told me I was fine. For 2 days, nothing weird happened. I started to feel stupid for letting it get to me. Then Saturday night, 3:09 a.m., my phone rang again. Same number. My number. This time I hesitated longer. My finger hovered over decline, but the ring wouldn't stop. I answered. No greeting, just breathing again. But heavier now, closer to the mic. "You didn't listen." I froze. "Look at the door," it whispered. My eyes snapped toward my front door. I didn't move. The peephole glowed faintly from the hallway light outside, but no shadows passed. "Don't answer it," the voice said again, lower this time. "It's all ready." The line cut out. At that exact moment, something knocked. 3 slow, heavy knocks that made the wood vibrate. I couldn't speak, couldn't even breathe. I stood there for what felt like hours until the sun came up through the blinds. When I finally checked my call log, the last call wasn't there. That's when I started recording everything. Calls, security footage, even audio at night. I told myself I was doing it to prove I wasn't losing it. But deep down, I already knew this wasn't about phone glitches or pranks, because the voice that called me knew things it shouldn't. It knew what I'd left on my counter, what shows I'd paused on Netflix, even what I'd said out loud to myself when I thought no one could hear. And each night, the calls got longer and closer. I bought a cheap motion-activated camera the next day. Nothing fancy, just enough to cover the front door, living room corner, and the short hallway that led to my bedroom. I told myself it was for peace of mind, but deep down, I was hoping it would prove there was nothing there. The first 2 nights, nothing happened, no knocks, no calls. I began to feel almost normal again. Then came Monday, 2:58 a.m., the phone rang. Same number. Same slow, heavy breathing on the line. I didn't speak. I just listened. After a few seconds, my voice, said quietly, "Don't hang up. This is the only way I can reach you." I swallowed hard. "Who is this?" "You already know. You left the light on again." I looked across the room. The small lamp by my couch, the one I hadn't turned on, was glowing faint yellow. "If you want to stay alive," the voice continued, "stop checking the recordings." Then the call ended. My heart was pounding so loud it hurt. I looked at the camera app on my phone. It showed new footage from just 3 minutes earlier. Against every bit of instinct I had, I pressed play. At first it showed me asleep on the couch, then at 2:57 I sat up. Except, I never remembered doing that. On screen I stood, walked toward the door and whispered something I couldn't hear. The camera's microphone crackled. I leaned close to the lens, face pale and blank. And I said, "He's watching this later." Then the feed cut out. The timestamp matched exactly when the call came through. The next day, I took the camera down. I threw it into the closet and shut the door. I told myself I'd stop feeding the fear. But that night, my phone buzzed again, this time with a voicemail instead of a call. When I pressed play, I heard my own voice whisper, "Please stop recording me." I deleted it instantly. For hours afterward, I sat on the couch with every light on, staring at the blank TV screen. My reflection stared back, eyes red, face drawn, and for a second I thought I saw my mouth move even though I hadn't spoken. I told myself I was overtired. I unplugged the TV, tossed the phone face down, and tried to sleep. At 3:09 a.m., the landline rang. That's impossible. My landline had been disconnected for months. I didn't want to answer, but something deep in my gut whispered that if I didn't, it would just keep ringing. So I picked up. "You can't stop this," the voice said. "You already answered." Then I heard a faint scraping from my hallway, like someone dragging metal across the floor. I turned toward the sound. The door to the closet where I'd shoved the camera was open. Inside, the red light on the camera was blinking steadily. I threw the phone down and slammed the closet door shut, heart hammering. The line had already gone dead. By morning, I was shaking so badly I could barely type. I emailed the footage to myself, then to a friend in another state, just so it existed somewhere else. But before I could send the final file, my screen went black. When it rebooted, all the videos were gone. Even the sent mail draft. In their place was a new folder labeled voicemails. I opened it. There was one audio clip. It was me again, breathing slow, whispering, "Don't leave tonight, I'm almost there." I slammed the laptop shut. That's when the phone rang again. The phone rang again that night at 3 a.m., sharp. Not 2:59, not 3:01, exactly 3:00. Like it was waiting for me to be awake. I didn't move at first. I just stared at it, that faint pulsing glow on the nightstand, lighting the edges of my room. I'd already tried turning it off earlier. I'd even pulled the SIM card. It shouldn't have been able to ring. And yet, there it was. The same number. The same impossible silence behind it. I picked up. No words came out. Just my breathing. And his. For a while, it felt like we were mirroring each other. Every inhale, every shaky exhale, perfectly in sync. Then he spoke. "Stop fighting it." The voice wasn't angry. It wasn't mocking. It sounded tired, like a man who'd repeated the same warning 100 times and finally realized it didn't matter. I whispered, "Who are you?" "I told you already," he said. "I'm you, the one who didn't listen." Something in his tone made the air in my chest tighten. "You shouldn't have watched," he continued. "Every time you do, you make it worse. You keep waking it up." My skin prickled. Waking what up? A pause, then, "Me." Static bled through the line. I could barely make out the words after that. It sounded like wind, or maybe whispering voices layered together. And underneath it all, I heard faint footsteps. Inside my house. I stood up slowly, phone still pressed to my ear, and turned toward the hallway. The light flickered. Then something passed in front of the kitchen doorway. Tall, human, but too still. I stepped back. "If this is some sick joke, look at the screen," the voice interrupted. I glanced at my phone. The call was still active, but now a small camera feed had opened on its own. The front-facing lens. It showed me standing in the dark, except the reflection was delayed just a split second behind my movements. Then my reflection smiled. I dropped the phone. It hit the floor and the screen cracked, but the voice came through the speaker louder this time. "You're not supposed to see both sides." The lights went out. I don't remember how long I stood there in the dark. I only remember the sound. That faint hum like power lines buzzing in the distance. Then a whisper right behind me. "You answered." I turned, swinging my phone like a flashlight. No one was there, but the door to the closet was open again. The red light on the camera blinked once, then went dark. I walked closer, shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Inside, the camera was still plugged in, but the lens was cracked, pointed upward, showing only the ceiling. And yet, through the tiny built-in speaker, I could hear my own voice playing softly. Don't pick up again. By morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I left the apartment without packing. I just grabbed my wallet, keys, and walked out. The sun was barely rising when I reached the street. For the first time in weeks, it felt quiet, but when I stopped at a gas station 30 miles away to breathe, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. The sound made my stomach turn. I let it ring. Then it rang again. And again. Finally, I turned it off and went to toss it in the trash can near the gas pump. That's when the screen lit up one last time, even though it was powered off. My lock screen showed a photo I'd never taken. It was me, sitting in my car, staring at the phone, taken from the passenger seat. Below it, a new voicemail notification appeared. The transcript read, "Don't drive yet. I'm not in the back seat anymore." I left the phone there. I drove until the signal bars disappeared. But some nights, even in the quietest places, I still hear the faint buzz of a call that shouldn't exist. And every time I close my eyes, I wonder, did I ever actually hang up?